Welcome to HortTube. My name is Jim Putnam. In this video, we're going to do a little bit of design or thoughts on design here at a friend of mine's house in Denver, Colorado. We been here camped out in front of his house here for a couple of days, and I went over to visit the Denver Botanic Garden, which isn't far from here, and trying to get some ideas there, which is, I think, one of the best ways to go about figuring out what is best grown in your area and all the different types of things you can do, from native plants to non-native plants that are non-invasive in your area. I've got the drone up above my head. There are 3 honey locusts out here by the road. I think you can they see them in the edge of the camera there? Okay, there's 3 big honey locusts out here by the road that kind of dominate this space, and it doesn't allow the drone to get up high enough for me to see this entire place. But this was a lot and a half, so they're very fortunate to have this wide side lot that you wouldn't typically see in one of these more urban spaces. This is very close to downtown. It's very similar to our lot in Raleigh, but it's a bit more space because it was originally, again, it was a lot and a half, which allowed for this side over here. This has been planted with irises and a lot of ground cover things in here. There's some lamb's ear in here. There's some lammiastrum back there, and some other various ground cover things. And it's just been a ground covered space. And he wants to come in here with a little bit more of a drought tolerant landscape. So that was one of the reasons we visited over at Denver. So, going into this, you're thinking about, well, what are my challenges? Obviously I got a lot of roots. I got shade from these trees. I'm in a city that, goes long periods of time, sometimes without rain. And so you have to do a tremendous amount of watering here. We have a mailman that has a walking route just like we do at our house, and we designed our front garden based around the fact that the mailman can come through the front gate, go to our house. He comes from across the street and then has a path across the garden to make it to the next neighbor without asking them to go back out to the sidewalk. And so there's a path that comes in here from the neighbor's garden. It comes to here, goes to their front door. He comes out here and he's just cuts right across the middle, which I would too if I had a walking mail route in a city with like Denver that snows a lot, right? I'm getting this thing done as quick as possible. And so we have to think about how to navigate, this space. And then again, wanting to transition to maybe more native plants. And then one other big challenge in a space like this is the dogs are with us. Holly and Griffin are with us here in the RV. And I take them out and walk, and they're just like the 100 other dogs we walked with this morning are peeing on things along the street in the little hell strip between the curb and the sidewalk, and right there, that first 2 or 3 feet up in people's lawns and and other places. So we need to think about having salt tolerant things out here along the sidewalk. If you're going to get rid of this turf, which is his ultimate goal, this first 2 feet or 3 feet of material, things that are planted out here are going to need to be salt tolerant, or tolerant to dog urine. And that's stuff you can look up, right? And see that the plants that you're looking at. He doesn't have rabbits. I haven't seen a single rabbit in this neighborhood. And so, that may be an issue for you. Deer, of course, may be an issue for you, but you need to go through this kind of list of what are your challenges and what are your goals before you jump in and, figuring out how to design a space like this. There's a lot of different ways we could design this, and there's not one answer that's correct. If you go over to the Denver Botanic Garden here, we could put boulders out here, and a lot of people in this neighborhood have, and they've done rock gardens or scree gardens, where their gravel garden is another name for scree garden, where, and they've gone all in on really Southwest native plants in those spaces, or some plants that can just take those kind of spaces. And it's going to require very little ongoing watering, but it may not be a look that you're going for. You may want a more traditional landscape but switching over to some more drought tolerant, plants, or plants that aren't going to require so many inputs. One thing here, getting rid of this lawn, this may be another thing that not everybody wants to do, right? You want to keep some sort of piece of lawn. When I always like to carry things over hardscape things like this sidewalk as if this sidewalk is not here, okay? And so for me, when the lawn ends at the sidewalk like this, I want to carry that over to the other side. So if this were mine and I wanted to keep some lawn, I would probably come in here and make like a half moon shape, like this right here with the lawn, okay? And get rid of, have this bed be bed back here, and then, but then carry this lawn across, okay? And transplant some of these irises, which she likes a lot, back here a little further back, or give them, you know, give a few away, and just create a balance here and cross, you know, having your lines, your long curves in your landscape, whether those be beds or hardscape things, just travel across other surfaces that happen to be there. Basically, there's a path existing that goes from the other house up here to the front porch. You know, I can show you that now. You know, male person is going to, you know, come through here just like this, come up here, male goes there, comes back out, and then currently just cut straight across like this. And so we would like to delineate some sort of curve here. He just put in this weeping crabapple over here. And one thing, another site challenge, and I think this is pretty brilliant here. One of the biggest arguments I used to have when I was talking to folks at the farmer's market was they would come in asking for plants, and I'd go, is it sun or is it shade? A lot of folks aren't home typically to monitor this, or they're not thinking about it, and they're not coming out in it every few hours, or they're seeing seasonal changes where something can be really hot and sunny at a certain time of year and then really very shady and wet another time of year, right? So one of the things we need to establish, but I would always ask this question, and then an argument would break out between the wife and the husband about whether it was shady or sunny, and neither one of them had really, it just takes time to learn these things sometimes. But my buddy actually bought a tool, and I'll link this down below the video, that monitors the sunlight out here. So it, you set this, and over a period of time, it'll analyze how much sunlight you're getting during the day in a space. And so if we're saying that full sun is 6 hours or more, and we're saying part shade is 3 to 6 hours of full sun, you know, the sun no more than about 3 to 5 hours, something like that during the day, and then shade being less than 3 hours of direct sun, especially early morning sun or late morning sun. That's a tool that will establish that for you. So that may be a good idea if you're struggling to figure out your sun or shade conditions. So I don't want just a straight line running through this thing for this path running behind this tree. I'd like to get where there's a hardscape, a rubber edging that was here, okay? And obviously getting rid of this lawn, this rubber edging doesn't need to be here anymore. So we can reestablish some sort of way that we're kind of forcing the flow through the garden. When you have this much depth in a space and this much width in a space, if I just turn this all into bed and there was no path through it, and this rail right here is only 2.5 feet tall, how am I going to layer plants in this depth and have that be well designed unless I put some sort of path through the middle of it? Then it allows me a lower edge again, right? So now I can stack things that are lower here, right? And slightly taller there. And then my path on this side, I can do the same, and then down to the curb here, right? So I can think about my design that way, and maybe in a wider spot, put something that's, you know, 3 or 4 feet tall, like that. But I would want this to kind of curve. I kind of want this to curve like this existing wall is, like this. And then maybe put a path that goes right to the road right here, just like this, that kind of lines up with the front door. And then have a path that comes off of there that goes this direction, okay? And heads that way. Then I divide this into one quadrant, this foundation planting back this way, and now I have a bed that's right here. So another way to do this would just be have this path, you know, just curve, but just be a single path that just bisects the front garden. And so you have one bed out here and one bed out there. I just kind of like that idea of having the piece come down to the street and then another piece come off of it. So the more bed edges I have, I feel like it's easier to design with, because I love those low growing herbaceous perennials, low growing evergreen ground covers, early flowering and late flowering, low growing things that I could tuck along these paths, and then allow again for this height, these height changes to occur, within these smaller spaces like this. Another thing, just thinking about, I'm talking about carrying something from one side of the garden to the other. This path could actually come through here like this and then bisect that other path that goes up to the front porch, and that would divide a triangular shaped bed here, right? And again, give us an additional, edge. And that way, if they don't have mail, then the guy or gal just comes straight through here with the mail, right? And again, it allows this big rectangular bed to have edges that we can, again, much easier to design with. Another thing here, you'll notice any area we visit, the plants are going to change. Okay, so here I can go to that Denver Botanic Garden and 80% of the plants there we can grow in Raleigh, but they can pick up some of the conifers here. They don't get as hot during the summertime. They can get as hot during the summertime, but overall, those drier summer days allow, what we saw over there was things like peonies, which are just a mess in Raleigh by late summer from the humid hot days. The peonies here still look great going into fall, and it kind of told me that that lower humidity is helping some of these perennials look a lot better later in the season than they do in our area. Things that would get powdery mildew don't get powdery mildew as much. They also, with these colder winters and slightly more moderated summers, have a lot more conifers that they can grow up here than we can grow in the Raleigh area. But what they lose is the leafy evergreens. A lot of leafy evergreens on my channel, because in Raleigh we can grow all of these evergreen hollies and loropetalum and other, lots of leafy evergreens I show on this channel that you can't grow in these colder areas. So you lose those, but you pick up a lot of other evergreens. So I would lean in here into some dwarf conifers in this landscape, so that when in the irises and the other perennials and so many deciduous shrubs that grow here, a lot of the flowering shrubs lose their leaves in the winter, or even some of the evergreen ones even look like they lose their leaves in the winter because they curl up and that kind of thing, like some of the viburnums, that even they look a little bit deciduous during the winter. I would lean into, and that's what they do over here at the Denver Botanic Garden, a lot of dwarf conifers. They're not invasive, they're not necessarily native, although Colorado blue spruce is obviously native to Colorado here, but a lot of them aren't necessarily native, but they're not going to be invasive in this space. And so, I would lean into those so that seasonally, as this thing goes to sleep, something stands out in the garden, something is the star. And a lot of people here, the rocks are the stars in the wintertime. They've gone in on, rock garden type gardens. They frequent the Denver Botanic Garden because it's close by. They're lucky to have it here. It's an incredibly beautiful garden. But by going there frequently during the year, as they're designing this space and laying out the plants, again, I can stand here all day long and talk about how I would lay out the turf or how I would lay out the paths and how much easier that's going to be to design with the plants. They still have to come up with plants that they like and they want to plant in this space. Going to that botanic garden throughout the year, several times a year, will allow them to see a long bloom season, a long season of foliage interest, whether that's chartreuse or blues or different textures in the garden, that stand out at different times of the year. Lots of grasses out here on the prairie, of course, that can be used. The shade may prevent some of those grasses from doing quite as well, but he may find by monitoring the sunlight that he has a pocket here or there that's going to allow him to use some of the native grasses out here as well. So frequent those places, and that will really help you picking plants to design a space like this. Before you jump into a project like this, you could come out here and lay a water hose on the ground or use the upside down spray paint. In a couple of these other design videos that I have on the channel, I've used the upside down spray paint to paint lines on the ground for where things are going to be, and then live with them like that for a little while. We do the same thing with plants. We'll bring plants home, and our garden is so crowded that sometimes we're trying to figure out where a plant will fit in. We'll move that plant around, move that container around into a few different places before we sink it in the ground. You can do the same thing with the layout of the garden. Lay it out several different ways. Try not to fixate on something. initially, and then that be the thing you're going to drive down. Lay it out a few different ways and see how it feels. Live with it as just lines on the ground for some period of time before you jump in. And then again, visiting places and observing what your neighbors are doing, observing how much maintenance seems to be going into these things. Because of the low humidity and slightly more moderated summers, there's a lot of fescue turf here. That's a lot of water in a place like this with no humidity. So I'm looking at that as that's got to be irrigated all the time, right? And so if you're trying to increase the overall appeal but lower the overall maintenance, those are things to keep in mind as well. You know what kind of gardener you are going into it. If you want to be out here all the time, that's one thing. Or are you trying to get something in the ground that allows you to kind of walk away from it a bit? There's some thoughts in how we would jump in and try to figure our way through, really, a garden space like this and how it can be used and the challenges it may have from shade and roots and, again, dogs and rabbits and deer and all the kinds of things and the way people are going to get through, the way you're going to walk through it, the way you're going to maintain it. All those things matter before you start, because I did landscape jobs where, folks would have a fence in the back garden but only have a gate on one side, and this side over here had to be mulched, but I couldn't get there. It's simple things like that in terms of maintenance that now, in charging whatever amount per yard of mulch to spread it, I was charging a lot more because guys are now walking a lot longer to bring back that wheelbarrow. And so just thinking about the ways in which you're going to maintain it, and the ways in which people are going to use it and enjoy it, and the way you're going to enjoy it, or be able to walk away from it and take a vacation, all those things, thinking through all those things. So there you go. The Learn to Garden video series is on my website, HortTube.com, and we go through more in detail about using wood chips, which my friend is in the process of doing with this back part of this garden and will be with this lawn as well, improving this soil. We planted some bulbs over here this morning. I couldn't stick a trowel in here if I wanted to, and over here in just a few months, I can stick a trowel completely in the ground. And so those kind of planning and thoughts, the 35 videos or so, and some design videos from Steph on the Learn to Garden video series as well will help you as well in designing a new space. So thank you guys so much for following on.